Hey guys, Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, welcoming you to another episode of Double Shot of Steelers. It's the second consecutive episode since they made that trade, which still seems ridiculous that they did. I'm wondering, what are we going to talk about? And she has to ask for a title for these shows so she can put it up on the graphic. And I'm like, there can only be one title. Did that still happen? Was that real? We've had some strange stuff going on around here lately between this trade and the Pirates scoring 37 runs in 4 games. The Penguins are, they're at least active right now. They're not. The NHL free agency opened up today and everything. But, man, this Steelers thing it's just like a big bag of rocks just fell on our heads here in a good way. I like the trade. I think and hope that I've really made that clear. I like the trade. I like getting, an all-pro for an all-pro, and then you throw in a Pro Bowl guy. That's okay. Especially since they're right around the same caliber for these players. But man, it's still like, wow. So what we're going to do today anyway, instead of me just going over the trade, is to try to take a look at some more practical ramifications of what it'll mean for this football team in the immediate future. Because there are many, and there are some unknowns within that. Small example. Actually, no, not small example. Really big example. Where will Jalen Ramsay play? My feel on this is that he's going to be at slot corner. He's very good at it. Very, very good at it. He's also very good at everything that he does. That's how he gets to be, Jalen Ramsay. He's got the capability and the willingness to go in or out as a corner. If you're the Steelers, you're not going to be moving Joey Porter. You're not going to be moving Darius Slay. What you do is you put Jalen there and you say, all right, you take care of this. If something happens on the outside or if we need something extra, we'll move you out there. But the other component to this is, are you tired of seeing the Steelers get eaten up by tight ends? We can talk about Mark Andrews, but then the Ravens come at you with Isaiah Likely, and you're like, we don't have an answer for that. And they didn't. Well, this guy can answer that. Jalen Ramsay can cover tight ends. Jalen Ramsay can cover anybody. So I see that as being way more likely than anything else. I don't see him doing something crazy like moving to safety. But again, you never know what somebody might try here. Oh my God, Travis becomes the 5 millionth person to point out that today's daily shot of Steelers this morning, I referred to Jalen Ramsay as Jalen Warren. Get used to it. It's coming. There was only one Jalen in my life before this, and I don't count Jalen Hurts because he plays on the wrong side of the Commonwealth. I'm talking about Jalen Warren's been my dude. When I think of Jalen, I think of Jalen Warren. This is going to be a chore for me. Okay, but go ahead, become the 5,000th person to bring it up today. And everybody does it as if they're the ones that noticed it. That's my favorite part. With the detective's eyeglass and everything. Josh Bittinger says, hey, DK, I got a question. I keep thinking about, I'm kind of worried, but do you think they're going to trade TJ Watt? I hope not. No, and no. If you ask that 6 more times, TJ's going to sign here. There's no drama here. We're kind of looking for it now. If all that we have left is TJ, there is no. Yeah. Craig says, who starts opposite of Ramsay? $26 million. He's the starter. He's not the starter on the outside. He's not. Where you are with the cap hit and the salary and stuff doesn't dictate that you're outside. Normally, I guess, in a regular old situation, it would. We're reaching the point in the sport of football at all levels, really, where the nickel or the slot isn't the throwaway position. It's becoming, and you're going to see this, I think, reflected in player habits in colleges and on up into the NFL, including the pay scale. Because if you can find an answer to stop the other team's tight end, well, if you're facing the Chiefs, for example, then you've also uncovered the answer to winning the Super Bowl if you're an NFC team. It takes time in football. It's never bang, get rid of the fullback, bang, get rid of the nose tackle, bang, get rid of this or that. There's a smooth segue into the next phase of a position. We're there right now with slot corner. It's just not being properly acknowledged or compensated. Again, I almost called him Warren again. Ramsay I think is going to be that guy. I really do. Hayden Daddy says all this Steelers might trade TJ Watt clickbait is unbearable. Yeah, okay, well then let's not talk about it here. I love you, man, but all that does is feed into it. That's what they want. The people that do this sort of thing here. Cody Silva says Deshae Ramsay. Now that one has merit. Cody comes in with a couple of bucks. That's appreciated because Deshae Townsend, he wasn't the last of the Steelers DBs who would go after the other team's backfield, but he might as well have been. The Steelers have long since lost any element of defensive surprise when it comes to their secondary. Nobody was doing it. Nobody was going in, blitzing, any kind of stunts, nothing. And Ramsay will get back there. And I know that's what you mean, Cody. I know that's what you mean. In addition to my bungling of the first name. Michael Cross says, look at the clips of Ramsay covering DK Metcalf. He held his own against Metcalf. Something to be said for that. Joey Porter didn't until the very last play out there in Seattle. And that was enough to have Joey smiling on the whole 5-hour flight home. He was okay with that result. The Dumpster Chickens, one of the better names we have here. It says, who's going to have an answer for Metcalf, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington in 13 personnel? I don't want to think of it as a big set. I know what you're getting at. Sending those guys out, you can theoretically, they don't even have to run good routes. They just have to exist. They have to move like 5 yards off the ball and turn around and go, hey, Aaron, just okay, there it is. Whoop. And there's nothing else to the play. But when I think of where this offense needs to be at a contending level, I'm going to keep using this word. I don't care how repetitive it becomes. It's rhythm. They have to be able to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and to have you feeling like you're off balance, even while your side is totally on balance. That's the way I want to think of this offense. That, by the way, is the way Arthur Smith wants to think of this offense. Not guessing at that. He's told me that. He wants to see this offense be able to do a little bit of everything, but he also wants to see, and this is important, he wants to see this offense be able to exercise its will, the proper phrase here? I think it might be. He wants that when there is a 2nd and 1 or a 3rd and 1, he wants them to be able to just make it a no-brainer, make it a 100%er. And that happens in large part because of these large people that you just cited. Doesn't happen any other way here. Ray Tallarico says these young folks don't understand that we get things confused once in a while. Oh no, I don't get Jalen Ramsay and Jalen Warren confused. It's just, when you're doing these shows, there's a lot of reflex that's involved. I don't work off of any script on anything that I do. Never have, actually. So it's just gonna roll its way out. Take one more here before we go to a brief break. William says, hey, DK, Mike Tomlin said they wanted to focus on being a more physical team. Do you think that they aren't there yet, or do they need more? they have made strides. I mean, you'd be nuts to not acknowledge that. I have a feeling, this is the only reason I hesitated as you asked that. I have a feeling that WR2, when that player arrives, and it's a when, not an if, is going to be a lot more to people's chagrin about the blocking and the execution and the physicality than it will be about, hey, here's a true bookend guy for Metcalf. I say that based on Arthur's precedents elsewhere, particularly in Atlanta. That was the way he treated his other wide receivers out there from a roster standpoint. He was, of course, the head coach there. But I also say it because this team could use even a little bit more. Now, Arthur always has that one hidden weapon that nobody ever talks about on offense. When he really, really, really needs to get something going on the ground, he will put Ben Skoranek out there at wide receiver. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's worth an isolation. It's worth just drawing a circle around Ben Skoranek on clear and obvious run plays. You will be not just entertained, amused by what happens. He fights that person down to the ground. He's Heinz Ward with rabies whenever it comes to blocking. All right, when we come back, I'm going to be taking more of your questions and stuff. Chris isn't with us today. He's still commuting back. For those of you who've asked, everything's fine. Him and his family went all the way to Texas, and they chose to go by car. So he spent last night in Louisville, which is still 9 hours away. So we weren't expecting Chris today. He joined us yesterday from the road because, it was a pretty big circumstance. But we'll be right back after this brief message.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Welcome back, guys. This live episode of Double Shot of Steelers is brought to you by Dazzle Sports, a premier source for sports memorabilia from the National Football League to Major League Baseball and everything in between. Autographed memorabilia from your favorite athletes, including jerseys, photos, game-used items. You can also find cards and collectibles. Show them some love. Go to dazzle-sports.com. Hear me on this. Get 20% off your entire order by using the code DOUBLESHOT. It's one word, double shot. Go to dazzle-sports.com. 20% off for your entire order using the code DOUBLESHOT. Again, make double shot one word. We're happy to have them here with us. Carol Toth comes in and says, I didn't even notice the mistake in the name. You mean this morning? Yeah, believe me, everybody else did, Carol. Too many Jalens, says Dwight Jefferson, and he's accurate. James Fairfield says, all these DKs and all these Jalens, actually the DKs still outnumber the Jalens now because you also have Don Kelly, the Pirates' recently promoted manager, who only goes by DK, which is hilarious because if you ever watch the Pirates press conferences, you'll hear that he refers to me whenever he's answering my question. It's DK. And there's too many of them. And then the boss over here, who still hasn't have her microphone connected, says there's also her. She's also DK. My daughter is DK. Her name's Dada. So there's a lot more than you might think, pal. And definitely we outnumber the Jalens for sure. Berg Boy says, hey, DK, I've seen rumblings that Minkah Fitzpatrick was at the root of the miscommunication issues. You haven't seen that from here. We don't address other people's reporting. We do our own reporting at DK Pittsburgh Sports. We're proud of that. We're not in the business of checking or correcting anybody else's. How did that go? I should actually make that like one of those signs that you tap, like the bus driver does, the Simpsons bus driver, if you've seen the meme. CJ says, DK, what do you think about guys in Pittsburgh who do cover the team, not national media, who say TJ and the Steelers aren't close to a deal. It doesn't matter. Nobody says, who says they're close to a deal? That's actually, again, we're talking about our reporting here. We're not saying they're close to a deal. Nobody is. I'm saying that it's absolutely going to happen because it always does. This isn't that complicated. You know, nobody's gotten into any kind of advanced conversations or anything. So there's no such thing as close or not close if you're not even talking. So, yeah, just don't, unless you're really looking to purposely irritate me, you know, don't do that. Of course, if you are looking to purposely irritate me, it works. She's laughing over here. It works every single time. Yeah, let's see what else we have here. James Fairfield says, could it be that Tomlin's actually embracing change? I don't know about that. I just think there's a pedal to the metal here. I really do. Now, there are some things that he's done, or at least approved or been part of, depending on how you view the Steelers hierarchy this offseason, that have been a departure from years past. I don't know that there were too many circumstances in the past, for example, where he would have said, you know what, I'm done with Najee Harris. And we forget about that one. That was way at the beginning. He treated Najee like an adopted son on and off the field. Even after the Steelers had decided to not exercise Najee's fifth-year option, which might as well have been the death knell on his tenure here, he was still rolling him out there like he was the bell cow. He couldn't stop. It wasn't until Najee, I mean, I still think he's going to have Najee take a few handoffs this year, even though he's playing for another team. I think there's an urgency to Tomlin right now. And I don't know, and I don't really care to guess or whatever as to whether it's related to, you know, him wanting to, you know, go out on top or, you know, kind of clear his name a little bit or something from all the playoff losses and everything. We'll see. But he's embracing something. He's embracing urgency for sure, James. Really good question. Forceworks says, I feel that the past moves have encouraged me that Mike Tomlin is going to let AR. Oh, Aaron Rudolph. Yeah, just write the names out. Is that AR? I see AR and I think Art Rooney.
You can try it on for that.
Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith cook, and that fuels my optimism. He's not when it comes to offense, I say this all the time. He's not the kind that wants to get excessively involved in it. He'd rather focus on the defensive side anyway. So if he has the opportunity to kind of cede control of that side, he's going to embrace it. So yes, you should be encouraged by that if you happen to believe that it's a good thing. The key thing within that, though, is that Rodgers and Smith need to have some kind of symbiosis, and we're a long way from knowing if that'll be the case. Chris Dolnack says, lots of flexibility with the secondary now, multiple looks and coverages. That's fair, Chris, but at the same time, who all are your safeties? Do you have enough? Do you have to get another one? Do you trust Juan Thornhill coming in on minimum wage? And that's what the Steelers got him for out of free agency from the Browns, especially when he's coming off a couple of, injury racked years with the Browns. He had a calf injury that's took forever to heal up. One would presume that it's healed up now, since he was a ready and willing participant in minicamp and everything. We'll see. That's a tough one. Only they can really gauge that one. And my feel is that, especially if you think about the way the Steelers have operated at the safety position the last couple of years, where they're utilizing three guys, they have lots of them out there and doing different things. You might still need one more, unless you were to choose to get Miles Killebrew back involved in the safety thing. And yeah. Joe Greenland says, Hilton wasn't blitzing? ? I said that he was. I said Hilton. Yeah, I said Hilton right after. Joe missed that one. Joe's getting old. Kyle says, I can tease him because I know him. Kyle says it seems that they went out and tried to fix every hole on defense this year versus having a Band-Aid approach. What's the top or weakness on defense that we have right now? It depends. I think it's Thornhill. If Thornhill was I muted there? Did that happen? Oh, it said that I was muted. It said the microphone went out. Can you test? Well, you can hear me because you're sitting across from me. Oh, you can hear me? Okay. Yeah, every hole on defense. If you see safety as a whole, then yeah, you've got to patch it up with one other player, maybe somebody who's better, sharper in a. Oh, she says I'm on the wrong audio. Okay, give me a second here to correct that. That's how that works. Oh yeah, look at that. How did that happen? There, watch this magic.
Oh yeah.
How about now? Woo! You're either going to get the microphone onto you here, or stop talking. That's what they want, the microphone. They made that clear. We asked last week. Robert says TJ isn't going to want to leave. TJ's not going anywhere. He's not. Mark Cunningham says that's correct, DK. Many teams even announce slot corner with the starters pregame. You better believe Jalen Ramsay's getting announced to the crowd when the defense gets announced for that first home game. I wouldn't be wondering, yeah, but he's only the slot corner. Ramsay's going to be out there for every snap. Evan says, should we expect more blitzing from the Steelers because we can trust our corners in man coverage? The question as to whether or not the Steelers will resume blitzing again comes with so many different layers, because remember that the emphasis and the stated emphasis in bolstering the defensive line with Derek Harmon, Y.A. Black, is that they want to get after it up there. Keanu Benton has been admonished to become a playmaker instead of just having a blank line on his stat sheet after every game. They don't want him just eating up blocks. They want him getting back there. They want him making things happen. My feeling, and there's so much stuff that changed yesterday, I don't think any of us can grasp it fully. But my feeling is that they're still going to want to do that. They're still going to want to have the line get after. They're still going to want to have most of their pass rush come from their either front four or front five. But then you're moving TJ around. You have Jalen Ramsay here. You've talked to the inside linebackers, which they have, about getting back there more often. It's a different world for this defense right now. And we're just plain old not going to have those answers until they start lining up in Latrobe, and we might not even have them then, because they might just want to save all that stuff for when they get to New Jersey on the 7th of September. Seth asks, hey, DK, I have a reporting question. Is it ever difficult to recall whether something was said to you off the record or not, especially doing a daily show? I imagine the lines can blur. Yeah, they can, but at the same time, if you've been doing this your whole life like I have, you can compartmentalize pretty easily. The easiest way to remember that or to think about things like that is if I have typed the quote into a written column. Okay. And then it kind of becomes stamped somewhere in my head. But listen, you're doing a live show, stuff's going to happen. I can tell you right now, I could have the most entertaining show we've ever had by spending the final, whatever it is, the final 20 minutes just telling you off the record stuff, and your mind would be blown. So I'd like to think I have a pretty good fence for that sort of thing. Curtis Smith says, it is odd that Ramsay wanted to return to Florida where he was from and then wanted out. Yeah, this stuff about players wanting to pick the teams that they play for based on geography and the weather and stuff like that, it's so grossly overblown. It really is. And that applies to all sports. With very, 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 very few exceptions, the decisions are made based on cold, hard cash. The ones that aren't based on cold, hard cash are the ones that are based on this team will either give me a greater opportunity, meaning to get on the field or on the court or on the ice, or the team has a better chance for a championship. But the championship thing is probably third on that list based on the conversations that I've had over the years. Popa Malu, what a name that is. And it's also a new one here. Welcome. Aaron Rodgers, even at this stage, is the best quarterback that Arthur Smith has had. The coaches are going to trust him. Aaron Smith is certainly the most accomplished quarterback that Arthur has had. Whether he's the best or not depends on how he can handle life at age 41 going on to 42 come December. We don't know that. We don't know if a banged up, and remember that you get easily banged up, more easily banged up as you get older. We don't know if a banged up Aaron Rodgers is going to be better than whenever Arthur had Ryan Tannehill at the height of his chemistry and everything else that they had going in Titans in Nashville when the Titans were explosive. So I wouldn't know that. Yes, in theory, I would agree with that. Jay Mood says there's so much change this offseason. I'm excited for the start. I'm excited for the start of camp. I'm excited just to see where these guys line up. I thought to an extent after Rodgers, I think we all did. Okay, they got to add another wide receiver, and this is pretty much the team. Then they do this. That's nuts. Phil says the show is too quick for a script. I mean, Phil, I just responded to your answer there. I didn't have time to script that out. Mike says, I've been a Steelers fan all my life. I don't even recognize this management. This is awesome. Well, remember, Mike, that whenever Omar Khan came on, that was one of the things that the fans were almost giddily pointing out was that Omar came across as being more aggressive, as the kind of GM that the Steelers weren't used to, whether you're going back to Tom Donahoe or to Kevin Colbert's long tenure. They weren't used to seeing something that was that much of a wow factor. The best example that I can give from this entire offseason is that the signing of DK Metcalf to a $150 million deal is a borderline afterthought right now. Okay? And these are the Steelers that we're talking about. Look at the names. Forget where they are in their careers and whatever else here. But look at the names that have been brought in this offseason between Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers. Don't forget about Darius Slay and what he means. Now Jalen Ramsay, now Jonnu Smith. This is wild. This is wild. And I understand they're not all, at the peak of their careers and everything, but they've found a way to address things and to address them with a sledgehammer. Rick says to have rhythm, you have to have a playmaker at all three levels to be versatile and to keep the defense honest. We have this right now. Chris Halleck, when he's on with me, always brings up the intermediate routes and brings up the Deontay Johnson type, the route runner type. The Steelers, in this split second, as we're talking, and based only on what's on film, not on potential, do not have that player. Okay? They could. If Arthur has his way and Calvin takes a step up and he can become that route runner and, not run backward after he catches the ball and all that other Deontay stuff. If Roman Wilson can take a big step up, then you're going to have that intermediate area. If not necessarily at some all-pro level, you're going to at least have it addressed. That's probably something else that should come up a little bit more often here. Austin says, do you think reading Pat Freiermuth for a wide receiver is an option? I don't know what you meant by reading. Do you mean trading? I don't think you're going to see anybody traded. I really don't. But then I didn't think this was going to happen. There's room for both of these tight ends in this offense. There really is room for it. Let's see what else we got here. People say Minka was, everybody keeps coming at me with rumors and stuff. I'm not interested, guys. You can ask us about our own reporting. I'm not interested in stuff that shows up somewhere else. I'm just not. Beer is Good Food says, after the trade, don't they have to get the TJ deal? They're going to get the TJ deal done. Gary asks if he is a member. Yes, because your name is showing up here in all green letters. Layla comes in, another new name to the process, says Juan Thornhill. Where does he figure in after the trade? I'm convinced that if the Steelers were to have a game this weekend, that Juan would be a starter. He would be out there. And that's because you'd need two safeties, and Deshaun Elliott would obviously be your guy up closer. So I would say that that's where he is at the moment. If the Steelers don't trust him, and they might not. I mean, they offered him minimum wage, and he took it, which says something about both sides, I would say. You know, they have to reconcile with that themselves. Kyle says, with a $5 contribution, appreciate that. Am I getting drunk on all the trade news and superstars coming to the team, or are the Steelers really building something special here? I want to see offensive rhythm. They might be doing something that has a higher ceiling than we would reasonably expect on defense if, capital I, capital F, that defensive line rises up. I think those guys will tell you the same thing. That's the separator. If they can cause all the havoc that they need to, that allows all these other people to do their jobs the way they want to. Now, understand, when I'm talking about the defensive front here, I'm including TJ. I'm including Alex Highsmith. I'm including Nick Herbig. And I'm including anybody at all that feels like joining on the Blitz parade, including Jalen Ramsay. I'm talking about just making life miserable for the opponent in their backfield. If the Steelers can do that consistently with those guys, they can build something special on defense. On offense, I just want to see rhythm. I am so sorry to keep saying that again and again and again, but I feel really, really strongly about this. Rod says all we need now is a good safety. Let's see. You know, if Thornhill's specialty, and this is his reputation, is to be a center fielder, and you put him in center field, and the opponent sees enough out of him on film to respect him and avoids him the way they did with Minka, and never underestimate that Minka has the advanced analytics still, even though he didn't have the interceptions, to have that impact. He made the secondary smaller because teams still did not want to throw near him, regardless of how many picks he had. Then you could see Thornhill stick. Otherwise, we'll see. We'll see here. What's this here? Dwight Jefferson says, no mean DK to the boss. DK is in the house to to keep it safe. I'm never mean. I don't like when people describe Pittsburgh as Pitt, and I really hate being asked about other people's.
Yeah, but you do repeat it a lot. It's kind of
It's so, I know, but not more annoying than the actual thing.
They heard it.
Nobody can hear you. Use a microphone. See, she wants a microphone. She's setting it up now.
No, I don't want a microphone.
Yeah, she pretends she's timid about the microphone, but she's totally comfortable.
I just want you guys to type in there how annoyed you are by him.
No, just type in there how much you want her to use a microphone. Sean Grass says, do you think we can expect some creativity and aggressiveness with this defense now, or are we just stockpiling man corners to play tight so the 4-man rush gets home? I love this question. I think it's both, my man. I really do. But the way you phrase it makes it sound like this super multifaceted, dynamic defense that can attack you multiple ways. Listen, I don't think of the word creativity when I think of the Steelers. You can take that however you want to. I don't think of creativity when I think of Tomlin in general. I don't know that he thinks of creativity. when something goes wrong, especially on defense, and you've heard this yourself, Sean, and everybody, what does he focus on? Need to tackle better, need to get bigger, need to get stronger. He doesn't think to himself, man, there's probably like some grand variety of schemes that I haven't considered. No, that's not him. That's not him. So I like the idea of all of this happening, what you describe here, just naturally, just by rolling them out there. You know, if the wide receivers and the tight ends are covered, and that forces the quarterback to either eat the ball or throw it away, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now go get him. Dale says, now who's the odd man out in the secondary? Oh, I don't think there's any question. That's Beanie Bishop. If you're bringing in Jalen Ramsay, and Ramsay, as I strongly suspect, will be the slot corner, Beanie is off the field. Had this not occurred, Beanie is going to be your starter. It's either going to be Beanie or like Brandon Eccles or something in that family, but it was going to be one of those guys. That's absolutely who's off the field in the secondary. And Juan Thornhill, in turn, comes on. Gene says, when Tomlin has a replay coach that he actually listens to, then I'll be able to say that he's embracing change. Yeah, it's not going to happen. He's going to keep looking up at the scoreboard. Vucci says, I like this one. DK Minka is a Steeler. He's a real Steeler. I don't recall management ever trading away a real Steeler before. Now you're going to test me here on. You're going to test me on my memory going back. Like, I mean, obviously real Steelers have played for other teams, but trading one away is different. Is different. I can't come up with one, and I'm usually pretty good at this sort of thing, which might mean that there isn't one. If anybody has one, feel free to jump in. Remember, it's not a free agent, so don't be saying like, you know, Franco Harris going to play for Seattle or whatever. This would be a trade. That's what's being brought up here. Wade says, do you think that Jonnu Smith could line up out wide? Not all the time, but in case of injury to Metcalf, no. But I do think that and know that Jonnu has done lots of different things. He can line up in a slot position. He can line up as an H-back. He can line up as a fullback. He's done a lot of different things. He is versatile, but to say, you know, hey, just go run deep routes, you know, that's not gonna happen. Crazy Pollock says, does losing Minka lower morale in the locker room? No, it doesn't. So I don't have anything for you there. Minka's just a drop dead serious dude, and he is serious about his football. So Garrett says they could get creative at the safety spot. Try Peyton Wilson as a midfield safety. Try Corey Trice at free safety. You can, but, you know, look at the calendar. You know, it's getting dark outside. I don't want to be teaching people new positions. If you have one person on your roster with experience at center field type safety, and that's Juan Thornhill, then that's Juan Thornhill. If you don't like what he brings you, go get somebody. Go get somebody. You know, we're going to see that Omar's not done. Lester says, do you believe that Corey Trice will get some playing time on defense this season? Yes. I think he has tremendous ability. He needs playing time to grow. My answer is yes. You're going to see Corey out there, and not just in the event of emergency. I think you might see him out there to spell guys. You might see him out there in different situations in the game, either with a big lead or big deficit. I hate to say that, but that's just how this stuff actually goes. He has made progress. He is a bright young man. I wish more people would get to know what a terrific kid this is, and I'll take some of the responsibility for that so far. I did an interview with him this summer that was just really, really cool, and I honestly can't remember if I played it for you or not. I do so many of these, I just kind of stick them somewhere, and then we'll forget. Really, really good stuff from Trice, and he did play some safety at Purdue, according to Lester. Poop Dollar says, I will start my day at DK's store, probably spend too much money, then go drink unlimited beers while watching Aaron Rodgers' retirement speech. I didn't understand any of that except for the part about coming in here and spending money. Come on in and spend money.
You mean you could get past Poop Dollar?
I got past Poop Dollar. I got past Poop Dollar. I got to the point where he was spending money at the store. We're totally into that. We have good stuff here. Berg Boy says, will Patrick Queen now be the main communicator on the defense? The correct answer to your question is no, because it's not now. He's always been that. It's that the secondary has its own vibes back there. Minkah was calling his own shots and yelling out his own instructions to the secondary. So here again, you have to ask yourself, is Juan Thornhill that guy? If he has center field, and he does experience in the National Football League, one would think that he has experience with that as well. As I'm talking to you now on a live show, I don't know that. Butthole says, do you still have the 2XL Pickett shirts? No, they were always 3XL.
And yes.
And the answer is yes.
Please come and pick them up.
We are literally giving them away and can't give them away. We still have them close to a year later. And she only wants to bring that up because I was the dummy who ordered them. Oh, yeah, he's going to be the quarterback here forever.
The one time you decided.
The one time I ever ordered clothing merchandise for the place. I saw a good deal. I thought I knew what I was doing. Damian says, I think we match up against the offenses in the division and the conference better now. Looks like they're going to have to trust. The Steelers are going to have to trust their fourth option a lot more than in years past. Fourth. I'm not sure if you mean fourth option as far as a receiving target or what. Leverage says, why do we apparently need Pro Bowl players at every position on defense to have a good team? To me, this is a scheme issue that'll never be addressed under Tomlin. I can't argue that. I can't. The last time we saw these guys, they were out on a field in Baltimore running this really silly, ridiculous gimmick almost, and crashing down on Derrick Henry and daring Lamar Jackson to run, to which Lamar was like, hey, Merry Christmas to me, and just kept doing it. And they didn't change it until the third quarter. So I am not at all in a position to say that it wouldn't be about scheme. And it might be about scheme first and foremost. It just might. Mark Cunningham says, I can't wait for the preseason games. Don't be surprised, Mark, if the preseason games disappoint to an extent. Meaning, if you think that they're just going to roll this offense out there for all three of those games, no. I don't know that, for example, I would think that Aaron Rodgers needs to get some time, within the preseason, maybe, a quarter or a couple of series or something like that, but not a lot. Not a lot. So I don't know how much you're going to see. I really don't. But I think from the defensive standpoint, it'll be fascinating to see where guys line up. I think from the Caleb Johnson standpoint all by itself, because there's so much running that happens in preseason games. And, you want to see the kid picking up blitzes and stuff like that. It'll be really significant. Progress with Roman Wilson, you want to see. There's all kinds of stuff that's going to be interesting from the preseason. But if you think it's going to give you some sort of overarching view of how good or bad the team is going to be, particularly on offense, I don't know about that. Sean Manahan says the Steelers could be the team with the highest football IQ in the league. Yeah, they'll certainly have the chops for it, but they just traded some football IQ too. If Minkah isn't the smartest man in football, he's got to be top 5.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Jacob says, what would stop this team from winning a playoff game? I would say the seeding. I would say my first thought when I saw your question, Jacob, was, well, the opponent. But then the seeding, if you don't do well enough in the regular season, you're going to run into one of these juggernauts, and you're going to run into some quarterback that can eat you up and equalize everything else here. If you're looking for a facet of the Steelers, the one thing that I would probably point to at this ridiculously prenatal stage of the discussion would be just that thing that I'm talking about still. It's that rhythm on offense. If they keep chopping their way toward, 19 or 20 points per game, they're not going to go anywhere. They need to become a real live, rhythmic, on a roll offense. Matthew Bunk says, do you think Kevin Colbert would have made this trade? Oh my God, he wouldn't even have crossed his mind. Huh? Not for a millisecond does it cross KC. I'm telling you, I'm saying that if I'm sitting right here, and he's told me stuff since his retirement, KC has, that Omar has done stuff that I'd never dream of. That Omar has done stuff that I wouldn't even, that I would have compartmentalized or walled myself off from, because that was just not the way we do things. It's just not the way we think of stuff. Denny asks here, did this have anything to do with Deshaun Elliott's new deal that they realized it might have in hindsight? I hadn't thought of that. It's a great point. I mean, they lock Deshaun up for 3 years, and they make sure that they're not just sitting there naked at the safety position. I mean, Deshaun was obviously signed for the coming season, but they don't want to leave themselves even for 2026 going, oh no. And they get that done just a few days before this. But that said, this trade just sprouted like a weed out of the ground in one day. Nobody reported this. Nobody had anything advance on this. And that leads me to believe, and we're going to find this out eventually, whether or not this just popped up on one day. That happens a lot with trades. I say this all the time. Every trade is just a phone call away. So you don't necessarily have to have all kinds of rumors and murmurs and everything else. It's one person to another person on the phone. Now, they have to go and check with all their people afterward and so forth, but it still originates with one phone call. Poop Dalla comes in and says, DK, my man, they need to rename the airport then, because it's literally PIT. It's technically not. Every airport in the world starts with a K. Get your airport abbreviations correct. It's actually KPIT, and airport codes don't mean anything. Ask somebody why the Nashville airport code is BNA. I actually know the answer to this, but there are some wacky airport codes out there. Nashville's I actually know like all of them. You can test me on this. BNA is Nashville.
Well, KBNA, according to your...
It would be KBNA if you're in aviation. Yes, there's a K in front of everything. And I don't know. There's enough of you in this audience who are in aviation and with airlines and even pilots, and you can back me up on this. I'm going to scroll down to our most recent. Oh my God, there's so many comments. EWR is another one. That's Newark. That's nuts. Chicago is ORD because of O'Hare. Let's see what else we got. New Orleans is a weird one. MSY. I've only had to fly there once. Let's see what else we got here. A PGH would be that would be a more appropriate. Come on, that'd be neat. If our airport code was PGH, what are you going to do? Change it like 100 years later? Pilots have been using this code for a century now. You just start crashing planes and stuff if you start changing codes, just on a whim. Nobody changes codes. I don't know of any code that's changed anywhere in forever. Another ridiculous one is Kansas City's. It's MCI. Like, how do you get MCI out of Kansas City? GDV. I don't know what that is unless you're making one up. Oh, MCO is Orlando. I know that one. Toronto is YYZ. Yeah, the Canadian ones are different. The Canadian ones all start with Y, and some of them are goofy. I'd like to think that Toronto's was named after a Rush song, but I know for a fact that the Rush song was named after Toronto's airport. Allentown. Allentown has an airport? Is ABE. Yeah, EWR. Just think of a sewer. That's really mean. saying that about Newark. Ouch. I've said some unkind things about Newark, but I try to keep them to myself. David wants to know, are we now talking about airports? Yes. As a matter of fact, we are. This is how this goes here. RSW, I know this one. This is Fort Myers, Florida. You guys are testing me here. BWI is Baltimore, Washington. Come on, that's too easy. Bring it, people. Bring me your airport codes. Do this. She's shaking her head over there as if this is not entertaining. Mr. CJ says it's double shot of airports.
Such a nerd.
This was my thing. When I was a child, this was actually like my first thing. I used to study airplane routes and stuff. You can do this.
Nerd.
Actually, I don't know what this one. I don't know SKY. I really don't know what that is. MGW. Come on, don't be giving me if Monroeville has an airport. I don't want it. Las Vegas is too easy. IAH is Houston. I know that one. IAD is Dulles. That's Washington. It's got to be a city that at least has a sports team, because that would mean that I would have flown to it. The ABQ is Albuquerque. What else we have here? BRIAD is Richmond, Virginia. Oh, it's not really. It's not. It's Dulles. That's not in Richmond. I'm not seeing. Yeah, where are we nerds? Nerds.
I don't see SKI. I think the poop dollar is
SKY? Yeah, I think he made that up.
I think he's messing with you.
I think we made that up. I don't see any other one. This one is Reagan. I know DCA is Reagan. What else we got here? LUV is Dallas. Love Field.
It was a public airport in Erie County, Ohio.
Yes, that's what I said. You just started kind of putting down landing strips and stuff like that. Where it gets really exotic and challenging is when you get into international airports. There's some crazy names there. All right, guys. CLT is Charlotte, the worst airport in America. And we will be back. You got me all wrapped up in this now. We will be back to take care of some business here, you silly people. Mr. Buku says, hearing the boss call you a nerd is so funny. How did you hear her, though? She didn't have a microphone. DK Pittsburgh Airports. That's who we are. Yeah, you guys are cheating now. It's going way too. These are small airports. Stella drops $5 for the nerds. The nerds can go spend them on some D&D cards or something, or some fresh dice.
Oh, you are ripping on the D&D people? Collect comic books?
I go every Wednesday to go collect comic books. You have no idea, Stella. You have no idea. Danny brings up DUB. That, of course, is one that we'll all be flying into this fall over there in Ireland. Deborah says, yeah, you can hear Dolly in the background at times, but Deborah's unsatisfied with the audio quality of your inputs.
It just sounds to me like you're the one who wants to.
It's just Deborah. She's really laying it on here.
No, I think it's just you.
Nope.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
Oh yeah, we're gonna after this, we're gonna really twist the arm here. She's gonna get that microphone connected here. There's no reason not to hear her. As long as she's talking. Justin Watson says this was too funny. Yeah, except for the airport code stuff. I take it actually way too seriously. Hayden Daddy goes and takes us into YYZ and says, do you think the NFL will ever decide to expand? And if so, what city? Toronto, San Antonio? If you go into Toronto, and this has been the prevailing thinking for the longest time, it's the end of the CFL. That's a very real and oft-stated concern in Canada. If you don't have a CFL presence, or if you have somebody in the Toronto market competing with the Argos, you kill the CFL because you kill the marketing, you kill the network rights and everything. 1 of every 4 people in Canada lives in the Toronto market. I know that sounds nuts, but it's true. And Toronto as a market, as a population base, is exploding. Like, there's estimates that it'll have as many as 10 million people within a decade. So if the CFL loses that, there's no CFL. CFL has an even longer tradition than the NFL does. Okay, the Grey Cup's been around forever. The Super Bowl's only been around for about 50-some years. So they're really clingy, and they should be, to their Grey Cup and to their CFL. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. As for expanding, my feeling is that the next expansion for the NFL would be something that's overseas. And I don't mean out of the country, because that would be Canada. I mean overseas. There's so much talk about a European division that it's hard to imagine that it wouldn't ever lead to something. And I'm talking about, you would have, London, probably 2 teams in Germany, and maybe 1 in Spain, something like that would look a little bit more like the old World League. Teams would then go over, like what the Vikings are doing when they play the Steelers this year. I don't know how many people realize this. The Vikings are playing 2 games in Europe. Did you know that? Back to back. The Steelers are actually going to be the second one of them. Why? You're already there. You're in the neighborhood. You've adjusted to the time. And you certainly wouldn't want to make multiple trips. You'd have to get really creative with the schedule. That's a great question. I love that one. Dwight says that the NFL would need 8 expansion locations to consider it. Now, you can always find a way with almost any number. The other leagues have all proven that. You can even do it with odd numbers. It's not comfortable, but you can do it. Let's see what we got here today from the business sense. Marvin Sr. came in as a member. We appreciate you, man. The Butthole contributed a gift here. CJ asks, do you have somewhere that you take suggestions for J1Qs? Yeah, I mean, right here. Put it in the comments underneath. Not the live chat, but in the comments after the video goes up. You can also put them. The first place I look, to be honest with you, is on our site, on DK Pittsburgh Sports. If I find a good one there, I don't search any further. So if you really want to get on, that's the place to do it. If you're over there, CJ, on our website, on DK Pittsburgh Sports, or our app. Cody dropped a couple of bucks. ForceWorks dropped 10 early in the program. Kyle came in with a 5. James came in with 3. Danny with a couple. Kevin with a couple. And unfortunately, I didn't get to his question. Heard anything about Sebastian Castro at safety? It's Juan Thornhill or to the outside. That's going to be your answer, Kevin. There isn't anybody else in house that you would just randomly drop in behind this now illustrious group. You know what I mean? You have to take that position seriously. Mike dropped $5, and he also says that he was hoping to troll some other Jets fans in New Jersey on week 1. He got front row tickets, also have Steelers season tickets. Says something nice about the show. Appreciate you, man. We'll be up there at MetLife Stadium. You can turn around and wave. It's a press box. I wonder if they're going to still have grass at MetLife, because they changed that awful injury-causing turf because of the World Cup. I wonder if that's going to stay grass. If anybody knows, let me know. I'm kind of curious about that, especially since Rodgers has to play there again. Stella with the $5 for the nerds. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day here. A ridiculous day, but a day nonetheless. And we'll be back with another presumably ridiculous show. Now, PGH says that they don't have grass. I know they don't have grass in general, but they're putting in grass. I know this for a fact for the World Cup for soccer this summer. So I'm wondering if they're already doing, or they're just going to leave it in there for football, since so many NFL players have thought about that. So Tommy asks the worst question you can ever ask me, which is, are you going to be in LA this year for when the Steelers are there? Never ask me if I'm going to be at a Steelers game. I've been at every Steelers game for God knows how many years now. So I'm at all of them. And yes, we do have meets and greets and stuff for our subscribers. We organize that. And we put it out on our website and on our app to let people know where we are. So, all right, guys, let's hook up again tomorrow. All right.